watching for The Downside of Continuous Change, hosted by William Woods. I think we can all agree that change in an organization can be a challenging time for many different individuals. Adjustments to work style, learning curves, and other unknown factors that may unfold. And I'm excited for Mr. Woods' presentation, and I'm sure he'll show us why sometimes a bird in the hand is worth more than two in the bush. And he's definitely warmed up to deliver an amazing presentation since he recently just delivered the keynote for Juneteenth in Clinton, Iowa. So be sure to also be on the lookout for the talkback session, which will be hosted next week, same day, same time. There you'll enjoy a roundtable discussion with William Woods and other organizational leaders to discuss the topic further. I'll throw the link in the chat now, and then we'll also have an email following the presentation with the registration link there as well. My name is Chris Poget, and I'm an Education Partnership Representative with the University of Arizona Global Campus. Be sure to stick around after Mr. Wood's presentation for some quick info on UAGC and attending the Global Campus. I will now hand the floor over to Mr. Williams to enlighten us on the effects of continuous change.
Hello and welcome to this presentation. I'm Dr. William G. Woods from the Forbes School of Business and Technology at the University of Arizona Global Campus. And here we go for the Summer of Learning. The presentation today is watching for the downside of continuous change. We live in a world that has to address change on a daily basis. Well, here's my outline for this presentation. We're going to look at dreams of a successful career, pursuing a successful career, challenges to a successful career, and all of that has to do with how change is addressed as you're seeking to change your present state to a new state of being so far as your career is concerned. And then dealing with two change environments, dealing with planned change and unplanned change, and then keeping up with change, which is really important, and watching for the downside of change. And then finally, we'll close out the presentation with rebounding from change. Now, here's a couple things that are really important. When you're dreaming of a successful career, like you're finishing college, or even if you never went to college and you're just working on having a successful career, well, there's the desired state, that's like right here. And here's the actual state. And sometimes the actual state may be better than what you desired, or it may be what you desired, or it may be less than what you desired. And sometimes, when you're pursuing that career, trying to get started, get your foot in the door, and then trying to advance in your career, when things don't match up, things aren't going the way that you want them to, sometimes there's that stress. And the stress has a way of wearing on you sometimes. And so we get into this career phase of, okay, we're pursuing the successful career. The desired state may be the company that you applied to work with, that you really wanted to work at, and getting the position that you wanted. But the actual state may be you're working for someone else, working for another company, and possibly not even getting the position that you wanted to get, but you still got the job. Well, sometimes there's challenges to a successful career, and working in a company, when you get into a company, you see some people that have been hired at probably about the same time that you were hired. And sometimes you might find out that some of those people may have gotten a higher starting salary than what you received. Well, one of the things that's kind of crazy about that is because that can sow a thought in our head that now we got to get more money because other people are making more money, and so therefore we feel the stress starting to build even more. And when the stress is starting to build, we start to think about that desire state. Well, we actually could have made more money and we wanted more money, but we settled for less, and so our actual state is below where we wanted to be. Well, when thinking about that, you see other people in the company sometimes that get that first promotion while you're still at that entry-level position. And so your desired state and your actual state aren't matching up, where their change environment is very different from your change environment. Your change environment may be stagnant, but theirs may be moving along. Well, let's think about dealing with two change environments. The first change environment is the company's change environment. The second change environment is your change environment. Now remember, I'm going to tell you, companies usually are changing one way or another. They're changing for the better, or they may even change for the worse. Some of the ways that you change for the worse is that things weren't going the way that you wanted them to as a business owner, and you have to lay off employees. You have to cut product lines. You have to reduce the amount of hours that you're open for business. All those kind of things are cost-saving measures. And so there's the company's change environment. But on the other hand, the company's change environment can be that it's in a slow growth or even accelerated growth. And it's fantastic because when there's either slow growth or accelerated growth, you have predictability with the slower growth. This company starts to see what it wants, and then when the company is seeing what it wants, it's able to look at where they are going and be able to know how things are basically going to work out, which that is fantastic. When you have accelerated growth, that can be great too. Sometimes you don't know how many employees that you're going to need to hire. Sometimes you don't know how many locations that you're going to need open. And sometimes you don't know exactly what to do with all the money that's coming in because you're growing so fast. Well, that's the company's change environment. But what about your change environment? And are you in your desired state? Or are you in an actual state that somehow doesn't match up with your desired state? Well, your change environment can be affected by many different things, and it's not just change at work, but it can be change in your private life also. So right now we're coming through this period of time where we're dealing with a global pandemic, and we're dealing with COVID that's happening, and the external environment that we deal with, man, people have been staying home. There's been the massive resignation that's occurred across the nation, millions of people not working. And then there's us, because we've had to make adjustments in our lives. We may have people watching our kids that we don't even know because daycares were closed down. And so the state may have mandated that, and all of a sudden that changes your life. That means you may even have to drive further to get to your kids. You may now have to take care of aging parents, which is more stress on you, and the kid's situation is more stress on you. And then there's changes happening at work that may not have been planned for. Like they didn't know that COVID was going to be so extreme that you had to lay off so many employees, and the employees who were left would all of a sudden have to work extra hours, take extra assignments, do double the load that they normally would have. That's all stress that's occurring in your change environment and also in the company's change environment. Well, that goes to the fact that we have planned change, the company. We have planned change in our lives. We were really thinking about how things were going to go. After you're with the company on the job that you have, you're thinking, if I make X amount of money in a period of time, I'm going to be able to get my own house, not my own apartment, but my own house. I'm going to be able to own something that will be an investment that I can get a return on investment. And so you think about those things happening, and that's wonderful. But I've seen it also in our economy where people were having those kind of things go on in their employment that's affording them some of the nice luxuries of life that way. But then when the pandemic took over, they couldn't afford any longer to make the payments on the home. And so that's change, and that's also stress that you were dealing with because you probably were worrying that those things were going to take over and you didn't know if you could hang on long enough so that you wouldn't lose anything. Some people lost cars, some people lost houses, and some people had to move in with other people just to make ends meet and do what they had to do to get through this period of time. So the change environments of the company and of your own life. Well, then there's unplanned change. Like COVID was unplanned. If you go back to 2020, we didn't know what it was. We didn't even know it existed. We were living our lives the way that we normally do. Companies were going on as they always have gone on, and then all of a sudden that happened. Well, sometimes there's other unplanned changes like weather events that happen across this nation. Tornadoes, flooding, earthquakes, fires, all kind of disasters, unplanned change. And the companies have to be able to respond to those. And they have to have plans for rebuilding quickly, hiring more people, answering the call so that they can respond in a competitive environment to maintain their customer base, and even if things happen to their competitors, expand their customer base, take on unplanned orders to be able to do what they needed to do to be able to compete at an even greater level in this global economy. And then your life, what about your life? Sometimes unplanned change happens when all of a sudden your boss can come up to you and say, you need more education. You need to take more professional development. You need to get a higher degree. We want to see you grow. And you're like, man, I had it all planned out, and I thought I was doing what I needed to do. Well, then all of a sudden you have to change your life, and thank God for it. Online education, because now people can take their college degrees, advanced degrees, and earn them at home, earn them according to their schedule, and then be able to complete things. And so that's adjusting to the call in your own private life so that you can meet the needs of the company. And so we look at our desired state again, and we look at our actual state again, and maybe, hopefully, our actual state and our desired state are getting closer together. Things are starting to balance out. Well, one of the things that we struggle with sometimes is keeping up with change. And the big question that we have to ask ourselves is, can you always keep up with change and do it greatly? After all, we're only one person. We only have 24 hours in a day. We need a rest period every day. And we don't want to do 2 hours of rest or 4 hours of rest. You know, they say we at least need 6 hours of rest. I know some real go-getter people that will not sleep past 6 hours because they say, hey, why sleep 2 more hours when I could be earning more income if I utilize that extra 2 hours instead of having 8 hours of rest? Well, when we think about can we do it greatly, this is where the call comes, not only to you, the workforce, but also to employers. That employers have to be in touch with their employees in a certain way so that employers are watching for the two downsides of continuous change. The first downside of continuous change is resistance in employees, and there's a bunch of reasons why employees get in a resistant mode. And then there's also the all-important burnout stage of continuous change that can occur. Well, Forbes magazine, they had author Lisa Quast, and she had 5 reasons why we get into resistance of change. And the first one is fear of the unknown or surprise. How am I going to be able to adjust? How am I going to meet all the demands in my private life? And how am I going to meet all the demands of my employer? They just sprang this on me. Now I have to switch shifts, or I have to move to another part of the country, or I just have to work more. And sometimes what that leads to is another reason for resistance to change. It's mistrust. Now, I want to tell you that a lot of these things are predicated on what you have experienced in the past. And so, can I trust management? And moreover, does management trust me that when I say, I'm not keeping up the way that I want to keep up, I'm not feeling well, that I'm not trying to get out of work, it's just that I may be burning out and I'm worn out by the rate of work that's coming in, the rate of change that's coming in. Well, when that happens, there's another thing that's right back behind it. It's the loss of job security and loss of control. There's nothing like getting in a change environment where they hire new people and the new people are really heavy-duty go-getters. They are highly motivated because it's a brand new job. They don't know anything. They don't know the culture, they don't know you, but they know that they have a desired state that they want to reach, and they want their actual state to either meet that desired state or excel past that desired state. That's the way loss of job security and control works sometimes. But the other end of it is not just new employees coming in. Sometimes it's employees being laid off, and you never know when you could be next. And you can look at your personal situation, look at your bank account, look at your savings. You can look at your investment portfolio and say, man, I really don't have enough income or savings or investments that I can make liquid in a fast mode so that I can sustain myself over the next 6 months to a year if what's happening in the economy continues to happen. Sometimes we have resistance to change because of bad timing. Everything could be going right for you, but you couldn't afford to have the changes occur that were happening. And I'm not talking about monetarily affording it. It may be that you had things all planned out, that desired state, and you really like what you've been doing, and everything is going good for you, but now something's happened in your personal life where you can't keep up. And so then you need a different way of handling it. Well, the last thing for resistance of change is that individuals' predisposition toward change. The way we always look at change. Some people love it. They thrill of it. You know, they look at it and say, man, that's job security. But then some people look at it and say, here we go again. And when it's here we go again, that's a negative. The other one was a positive. And see, our outlook could be a negative predisposition, period, about many things in life. A lot of people dwell on the negatives. As a matter of fact, a lot of the gossip that you will hear is based upon the negatives. And so that predisposition can affect all of the other factors that are 5 factors of resistance to change. Well, as we start to deal with it, each of those factors that I talked to you about is a stressor. It's a stressor. And it could lead to burnout. And Mayo Clinic gives the symptoms of burnout. I'm going to spend just a little bit of time on that. Mayo says, have you become cynical or critical at work? You probably have heard people be that way. Do you drag yourself to work and have trouble getting started? Man, you just want to go sit at your desk or whatever and decompress the minute you get there. Have you become irritable or impatient with coworkers, customers, or clients? See, this is something for management to watch in their employees, and also for employees to watch in themselves and even their friends. Do you lack energy to be consistently productive? Do you find it hard to concentrate? You know, during this pandemic, some people were talking about brain fog. And you talk about not being able to concentrate and not being able to focus the way that you normally do. You're kind of worn out and around the edges. And maybe it's getting in deep now. And so you experience these things. And do you lack satisfaction from your achievements? It's kind of gotten blasé. Hey, you know, I did everything I was supposed to do, and it just doesn't seem rewarding anymore. Do you feel disillusioned about your job? You know, other people would possibly have a different perspective, but in our own little world, it's the world that we know. All of a sudden, we can't appreciate the good things in life because something is happening with us. It's happening to us. Are you using food, drugs, or alcohol to feel better, or simply not to feel at all? These are warning signs that something else has happened. Have your sleep habits changed? Are you getting less sleep because you're all nerved up and so you're losing sleep? Or are you so worn out all the time now that you're sleeping even more? Well, are you troubled by unexplained headaches? Man, migraines are all of a sudden kicking in. The stomach is always upset. You're having bowel problems going one way or another. Or physical complaints. Man, why does this work? Why does that hurt? Why is everything just happening to me? and my body. Well, so there's the symptoms of burnout. How about handling job burnout? This is the final part of my presentation. Evaluate your options. You need to talk to your employer. Be honest with them and get honest with them early on. Don't wait till this is so heavy on you and you may have feared even telling them about it. You got to go tell them that you're experiencing it because they may have certain benefits for you that will help you to deal with that and help you to get counseling, help you to get aid from your medical doctor that may help you in the long run and in the short run. How about seeking support from your coworkers, friends, and loved ones? Now, when I say coworkers, I don't mean the ones who are going to gossip and go tell everybody about you. I'm talking about the ones that can strictly hold your confidence and you can hold their confidence, that you can talk to them and you know it's not going to end up in anybody else's ears and coming out of their mouths. And your friends are the same way, and your loved ones are the same way. You need people who care about you because sometimes they can help you get over the hump. How about relaxing activities like bike riding or sledding or swimming or going to the gym, those kind of things? And I know if you're taking on all these extra responsibilities, it may feel like you don't have time. So maybe you need to have a machine at home that you can work out on. So that leads to the next one, which is getting some exercise. And exercise can do a lot for you. But it has to be exercise that's not going to hurt you and it's not going to make you even that much more tired. And how about mindfulness? This is the last thing they say. Be aware of what you are sensing and feeling every moment. That means pay attention to yourself. My dad was in the generation that no matter how you felt, no matter what you were going through, you just kept soldiering on. You never called in sick. You worked as many hours as your boss wanted you to work. And sometimes you neglected yourself. And you didn't tell anyone. You kept it all in. Well, for your own sake, please look at these points that I talked about evaluating your options, seeking support, trying relaxing activities, getting some exercise, getting some sleep, and being mindful of yourself. That's really important. And I got to say to you, don't put on mask and try to look like everything is great when it's not. Christopher F. Monte, he said, masks reveal what they conceal. By donning some masks but not others, people actually disclose precisely what they would shield. Indeed, a person does not hide behind a mask so much as struggle beneath the weight of it. See, that's extra stress. So you gotta be real. And I have one last thought on change. The greatest change in life is you. So I want to thank you for being here today and listening and watching this presentation. And I have one last thing to say to you. The best of life to you.
Thank you, Dr. Wood. That was a amazing presentation and gave us a lot of perspective on change and the different aspects of it. Right now, we're just going to go into a quick presentation on UAGC and attending the global campus. So if you want to just bear with us for a little bit longer, we're gonna wrap up from there. And if you're interested in learning more about UAGC, our education benefits, or becoming a partner, you can scan this code or just click the link that I'm going to throw in the chat right now. And if you requested more information about attending UAGC when you first registered for today's session, then there's nothing else that you need to do, and an advisor will be following up with you. Once again, if you enjoyed this session and would like to dive deeper into the subject, I implore you to attend the talkback session that'll be hosted next week, same day, same time. There you'll enjoy the roundtable discussion with Dr. Woods and other organizational leaders to discuss the topic a little bit further. So you can follow the link in the chat, or you can look out for the email that will arrive shortly after this presentation as well. And lastly, I just want to field any questions that anyone may have for Dr. Woods or myself pertaining to the presentation or about attending UAGC. All right, and I see the chat is pretty quiet. So as we wrap up today, I just want to give a big thanks one more time to Dr. Woods for his amazing presentation, and for showing us how different changes can be combated and taken in. Oh, sorry, I think we do have a question coming in.
Feel free to unmute yourself for a question as well. You are able to do so.
Yes, this presentation is being recorded and then will be shared as well. Are there any more questions? All right. Well, thank you all for attending. That's going to conclude our summer of learning session for today. Be sure to either follow the link or look back for that talk back session to dive into the subject a little bit further. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day, folks.